Jalen Carter is turning out to be the steal of the century. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, Cake Dingbat here. Hope everyone's having a great day. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're hanging in there. So it looks like more and more the Eagles just robbed the NFL. We are talking about the steal of the century when it comes to the Eagles drafting Jalen Carter. You think 9 was a good slot for him? There's no way he should have gotten past 2. But Jalen Carter falls to the Eagles, and this is going better than you could ever imagine. Now, we got a lot to talk about today, and before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, make sure you hit that like button. More importantly, make sure you subscribe to the most censored, the most throttled, pause, Eagles content creator in all of the internet. And if you just do me a favor, just make sure you're still subscribed. Make sure everything is still set up. Just double check. Double moonwalk check. Make sure everything is good to go. YouTube has been throttling me again. Pause. And I just want to make sure you guys don't miss anything because I'm getting ready to start Mark Holmes and yes very, very soon. Now, a quick reminder that tomorrow night, Thursday night, I will be streaming the Giants-San Francisco 49ers game, and I will be rooting for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't like the 49ers, but I hate the Giants even more, and I have to go against NFC East division rivals first and foremost. So if you want to come hang out, you want to laugh at the Giants, you want to have a good time, tomorrow night is the perfect time to do it. I will be here streaming, so look for that. Now, before I talk about Jalen Carter, and I got to tell you, I just keep getting more and more excited. Pause about Jalen Carter. I do. But before we get into that, we do have some Eagles news happening right now. We had a series of moves, really starting back yesterday. The Eagles brought back Tywan Mullen, the cornerback that they had on their practice squad. They released him, then they bring him back. So he is back now with the Eagles. Then the Eagles placed Avonte Maddox on IR. Not a surprise. I don't expect to see him the rest of the year. And they had one spot open on the roster. Guess what they did? Just guess what they did. They elevated Britain crash test Covey, scares the hell out of me, to the active roster. And that opened up a practice squad spot. And they signed a running back today, actually Bryant Koback. I didn't know much about him. I did look some stuff up about him, but he's coming in to the Eagles as a running back. Somebody to keep an eye on. Here's what they said about him. Bryant Koback is 6 foot, 210-pound running back. Was originally signed by the Vikings as a rookie free agent out of Toledo in 2022. He spent his rookie season on the Vikings practice squad and joined the Seahawks for the 2023 training camp. In the 2023 preseason opener, Koback rushed for 32 yards on 6 carries while gaining 43 yards on 3 receptions. That's not bad. At Toledo, Koback rushed 4,026 yards while scoring 45 touchdowns, averaging 5.9 yards per rush. He gained 1,400 yards on the ground in his final season, second in the MAC. So that's the Eagles' new running back that they're bringing in to the practice squad. You knew that they were going to bring in a running back. I think Trey Sermon actually signed a couple days ago with the Colts on their practice squad. So you needed another running back. We're going to talk about the running back. I got a whole separate video on the running back. I really don't want to talk too much about it, except to say that this so-called fake conversation or these arguments of who should be the number one running back, to me is a joke. It's DeAndre Swift, and it's not even close. But I like I said, I want to get into that in another video. It's going to take a lot longer, so we'll save that for then. But DeAndre Swift is the guy, okay? What I want to talk about really is Jalen Carter, okay? PFF put out the top ranked rookie so far through 2 weeks. And guess who is number one? NFL Rookies Top 5 highlights graded players after week 2. And guess who they had number one? That's right, Jalen Carter. Number 1, Jalen Carter. Number 2, Bijan Robinson, who looks like he is an absolute stud. I think he's averaging like 6 yards a carry, right around what Swift is averaging. So he's off to a good start, but nobody's off to the start that Jalen Carter is off to. Let's just be honest about it. Let's face it. All right, here's what PFF said about Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter stays on top for the second straight week. Carter stands atop the 2023 draft class as the highest graded rookie in the league. The Eagles' first rounder finished the week as the only rookie to maintain a 90-plus grade through his first 2 outings. I mean, and we have talked about Jalen Carter and the amount of pressures he's had. He's played in less than 50% of his snaps. The guy's played in less than 50% of the snaps on defense, and he's still on pace to get 8.5 sacks this year. He's absolutely killing it in terms of pressures and things like that. Jalen Carter has been an absolute monster for the Philadelphia Eagles so far. And I expect this is going to continue. I really, really do. I think Jalen Carter is only getting started. Just a reminder, here's what NFL Rookie Watch had to say about him. Jalen Carter through 2 games has been a nightmare for opposing offensive linemen. Carter is now up to 11 pressures, 10 hurries, and a sack, and has played in less than 50% of the Eagles' defensive snaps. This puts Carter on pace for 93.5 pressures, 85 hurries, and 8.5 sacks. For reference, Chris Jones, Chiefs defensive tackle, had 97 pressures and 63 hurries last season. Now, what's interesting about the Chris Jones thing, when we talk about that, is he's on pace with him, but Chris Jones played in, I think, 79.79% of the defensive snaps last year. So Jalen Carter is doing this under 50% of snaps. I think it's only going to go up as the season continues. He is a monster. He is literally a monster. And you know, I have been saying that he is the closest thing to Jerome Brown that we have seen in since Jerome Brown. I mean, we've had some good defensive tackles. Don't get me wrong. We've had some good ones. Fletcher Cox was good. Corey Simon gave us some good years. But I haven't seen anybody that can do the things Jerome Brown can do. And I truly believe if Jerome Brown stays alive and plays out his career, I think Jerome Brown goes down as the greatest defensive tackle to ever play this game. That's how much I thought of Jerome Brown. Jerome Brown was a stud. And for Jalen Carter to look like Jerome Brown, I think is absolutely a great sign for the Eagles. I mean, I've even heard people even bring up Reggie White, who was a defensive end. But, I mean, when you get the kind of praise that you're talking, it's unbelievable. And don't believe me, all right? You don't have to believe me. Listen to Seth Joyner and what Seth Joyner said about Jalen Carter. He said the same thing. This is what Seth Joyner said. He was on a podcast. I guess it was John Clark's podcast. And he said this, quote, "He has the abilities of Jerome Brown when I watch him play. In a lot of ways, he looks just like him. He's going to be unstoppable. He is going to be unblockable." Eagles Hall of Famer Seth Joyner on Jalen Carter. So I'm not just making this up or saying it because, you know, he's a good rookie for the Eagles. He literally looks like him. Jerome Brown, the one thing with Jerome Brown was he could play the run, he could play the pass, he could do it all, and it was very, very hard to block. He was very athletic, he was very fast. And Jalen Carter, when I watch him play, that's who he reminds me of, Jerome Brown. He may be actually bigger than Jerome Brown was, but he looks like the part. And here's the bonus part when it comes to Jalen Carter, okay? You're not just talking about Jalen Carter by himself. you're also talking about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, the duo, okay? Because a lot of people wrote Jordan Davis off. They said he was a bust. He can't play 3 downs. I don't know why people ever thought that Jordan Davis couldn't play 3 downs. I mean, just because he didn't in college, he didn't have to in college. But when you look at his skill set, you look at his athleticism, you look at how strong, how fast he is, there was no reason why, if Jordan Davis was not well conditioned, he could not play 3 downs. And he's playing it now, and he's kicking ass. All right, let's be honest. He's kicking ass. And when you have him with Jalen Carter, you have the beginnings of something very special with the Philadelphia Eagles. The greatest defensive line I've ever seen was that Reggie White, Clyde Simmons, Jerome Brown. I've never seen anything like that, ever. Even though the Eagles had 70 sacks, I still have never seen anything that dominant. The Eagles got 2 pieces, I believe. They're both defensive tackles, but you could get a stud pass rusher. Maybe Nolan Smith emerges as a double-digit sack guy. You're for the future, for years and years to come, you are absolutely set. You could have one of the better defensive lines we have seen in a long time. Jalen Carter is that guy. He is the real deal. He's probably the most talented player in this draft. And the fact that the NFL let him get to the Eagles was the steal of the century. Really, it's the steal of the century. I expect him to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I expect him to just kill it the rest of the year. He is an absolute monster, and the Eagles are lucky. We are lucky that it worked out, man. You had to get Will Anderson, him, or Bryant. You needed one of those 3 guys, and the fact that they got Jalen Carter is tremendous, and he has been everything we could ask, and everybody knows it. You know it. When players like Kelsey and Lane and those guys come out and they say, this dude's this good, they're saying it because they're pretty confident they know what they're looking at. Jalen Carter has been absolutely spectacular. He is the closest thing to Jerome Brown that I have seen in years. Since Jerome Brown, let's just be honest. Since Jerome Brown. And I think Seth Joyner confirms it. And if you're the rest of the league, you better be scared. You better be very scared. With that said, take care. I will talk to you later. And of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's how we vision. We're all just living in it. So I know I said I want to talk about DeAndre Swift in more detail and about who's the #1 running back, but we did have a little bit of breaking news just happen as I was getting ready to post this video. DeAndre Swift named Offensive Player of the Week. Eagles running back DeAndre Swift named Offensive Player of the Week after his career-high 175 yards rushing in win over Vikings. To me, this is just the start for him. If he stays healthy, he's going to have a monster year, even more so than Miles Sanders last year. This is an upgrade at the running back position. People are just starting to find out now that he is. Denzel Washington, out.